So I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. It's going to be a beautiful day. It's exciting. Our first fall conference for this year. Karen has done a wonderful job in putting this conference together. I'm going to give her all the kudos here because she did all the work. So thank you so much, Karen. I really appreciate everything you've done for TBW and will continue to do. And we're going to just kick it away, and I'm going to turn it over to Karen. She's going to let you know what's coming up and all the exciting things we have for y'all today. Y'all enjoy this conference, ladies.
Thank you, Laura. And as we have a few more people popping in, it's just 3 minutes after. So I would maybe pause for just a second. Let's give a few more because I think we're probably got a couple more coming in. But as we're waiting and as they're joining us, I just want to say how excited I am that the cool weather is coming in to Texas. It's like 40 degrees here. It finally feels like fall. We fall back on the time this weekend. So what a great time to just fall in love with our leadership and with being a strong trailblazing woman. We have so many of those here on the call. And I just want to do a quick shout out that one of our other speakers has joined us too. So Kimberly, thank you for being here all day with us, or all the conference with us. You don't have to come on camera. We'll let you come on in a minute, but I just honor you and thank you for being here and for joining us today. So as we begin to launch, I want to introduce our first speaker, who is Carol Silva Moralez. Carol is a Texas native and the president and CEO of UPSKILL NWA, where she's leading the sectoral-based workforce development program and growing a robust standalone organization providing lower-income workers access to education and placing them in high-paying, high-demand careers in healthcare. Carol spent 25 years in leadership within the Walmart field operations before transitioning to home office in Bentonville, where she led teams in the design and development of functional and leadership training for Walmart's U.S. workforce. Prior to being UPSKILL NWA's president and CEO, Carol was the lead partner responsible for diversity and inclusion and leadership development practices at Serve to Perform, where she also served as the co-chair of Latina. In 2020, she was the recipient of NWA's Business Journal's Top 10 Women in Business Award. Carol's topic for us today is women's empowerment. And I just want to thank my very, very special friend for coming today. She said that she is on the road because she is at a wrestling tournament. Her son is a champion wrestler in high school, and he is just amazing. So I hope that you'll follow her on social media and keep up with his progress and see all things. And she's under Carol Ann Silva Moralez on Facebook. So find her, follow her. She's amazing. And Carol, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Oh, Karen, truly, truly, I'm honored to be, talking to this group. Thank you for bringing me into your circle, and make sure you find me on LinkedIn too. And I have to say, Doris, I love the hat. I know it's that beautiful filter, and I'm feeling you today. My goodness, that's wonderful. So, thank you, ladies. Buenos dias. Happy to be here, Karen. So I'm looking forward to our conversation.
I have made you co-host, so if you need to share anything or do anything, you are welcome to do so. But today we really want to open up the table to you to talk to us about your journey as a woman in leadership that's facing challenges, as in some rooms, you're the only woman, you're the only minority, you're the only mom in the room. So talk to us about what that has been, because it's different in each of those situations. So we really want to dive into the journey of Carol.
Thank you, Karen. So I'll start with telling you there's a real life example that that just happened. And to tell you the truth, it I'm doing what I truly feel is God's purpose in my life. And the reason why I tell you that is because, when I have these opportunities to talk to other women, and hopefully depart some little nugget here, I'm going to do it every single time. And it happened that I was invited to speak on an upskilling panel, and it was with, in terms of upskilling as an economic place-based strategy. And specifically here in the Northwest Arkansas region, which if you haven't been, it's absolutely lovely here. And I had no idea, because I'd never been to Arkansas before, what beautiful natural state this is. But to get back to the panel, I was invited to speak on this panel. And so my co-panelists happened to be all male Caucasian males. I didn't think about it a second, because these were presidents of Northwest Technical Institute, the president of Northwest Arkansas Community College, a director of the Arkansas Apprenticeship and Center of Data Sciences. So all Caucasian, all males, all a specific demographic. And here I am sitting on the stage with these men. And so I shared that through my Facebook. And my gosh, if my little Latina primas and best friends from San Antonio are posting on this picture, oh my gosh, look at this Latina boss lady. She's the only woman sitting on this panel. She's the only Latina sitting on this panel. Go Carol. I mean, they're just, amazing. And when you have your circle, the the things that they'll do to champion you and lift you up. And so when I saw that post, Karen, what I thought, I was filled with a tremendous sense of pride. Orgullo is the word in Spanish. Because although my parents are no longer here to see this, I can imagine that they envisioned for their child something like this, an opportunity to lift the voice and the experience of a Latino, in my case, a Latina, right? And it was truly, truly special. I mean, I know what role I am, but until you get a seat at the table and you get to share your perspective and your insights, and it's truly a wonderful experience to be able to be there. It truly, truly is. So all of that to say, there was this little teeny weeny voice in my brain saying, look at you in this space. You got to sit up here. And one of my friends said, you should be sitting there. And I think that's what women's empowerment is. It's the other voice, not our voice inside that kind of tricks us into believing maybe, or questioning if we're in the right place or why we're sitting here. Do we deserve to be here? Empowerment is that person that says, you absolutely deserve to be here. Of course you're sitting there. Yeah, what are you going to say? What are you going to do with this opportunity? And so I think it's really amazing. It's just how these opportunities happen, and yet we do have to make sure that we are ready for them when they happen.
I love that you brought that up, Carol, because I think the key that you said was it comes from inside.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I think that I'd like to know more about, and maybe we can pull some questions. If anybody has a question, please share. But this didn't happen just because you showed up on that day. Tell us where that began, that confidence, that willingness to step out of your comfort zone and your circles of support and
Mhm.
into those rooms and into those circumstances where you were the only woman, only Latina, only mom at the table.
Yeah. So let me say, I think it begins with what my own journey has been.
Yes.
And it started in 1994 in Yucca Valley, California, when I started working for Walmart. And I got hired at Walmart, started moving up very quickly. My husband was a Marine, and we got stationed in 29 Palms, which is why I was out in the middle of the desert working at Walmart. Luckily, we were transferred to San Diego, California, and there was a lot more opportunity there. It all started, Karen, with one person, the store manager of my store in Vista, California, that said, "Have you ever thought about being a store manager?" I was a department manager at the time, but he noticed something inside me. And I think that is very important. That's the role that a mentor or a sponsor plays, and the importance of having those, I'm going to call them raving fans in your life. Okay, so that's one component. You got to have that raving fan because you're delivering on the day job. You're doing such a great job that people notice what you do. And so it was actually that began the entire journey. I worked my way up through the various levels at Walmart. And I knew I was at a deficit at that time in 1995, 96 in San Diego, and actually in California total, there were 110 Walmart stores. Of those 110 Walmarts, there were only 2 women store managers, and I was one of them. Keep in mind, I said, there was a line of 20 men behind me. There weren't a lot of women that were doing this job. It was very, very difficult. And as I said, I had an advantage in that I didn't have my family at home. And so therefore, I was on a B schedule, which is called be there. And so that meant it was a 70 to 80, even, and during the holidays, 100-hour work weeks. And I was willing to do it because I was all in. My mom and daddy taught me the value of hard work. And if I worked really hard, then I was going to get exactly what I deserved. Was a store manager. And so therefore I was doing every single thing to protect it because I was the only. But my dream was to be a super center store manager, like the ones we see here in Arkansas, and the ones you see out there in Texas with the food on it. And I was promoted to a super center in San Antonio, Texas. And so I finally got to go back home for 4 years. But even then, I still wasn't a mother. And it was a very fateful conversation with another woman who was serving as our regional vice president at the time. She went on to become Walmart's COO, first Latina COO, and that's Giselle Ruiz. And I had a conversation with her, and it changed my life. And it basically gave me permission to be a mom, to step into my power as a woman, which I equated to being a mom and fulfilling the dream that Tomas and I had for ourselves and our family. And so while I was at San Antonio, Texas, I got pregnant and I had my son, and I took all 12 or 16 weeks. I forget how long, but I took every single one of those weeks to be a mother to my babies. And it was liberating. It was liberating. And I had a second son. And then I was promoted and we moved, pardon me, we moved our little family to Northwest Oklahoma, where I had a market. And then I had 7 stores and 1,500 Walmart associates. And I had $326 million in business. I was doing that for 2 years, ladies. And my 2-year-old son said, he really changed my entire trajectory of my life, I would say, because he would cry when he started to see the suitcase. I was out there, I was the only woman. I was the only Latina again, and I was traveling 5.5 hours to my furthest store, which meant that I would hit, I had 7 stores, so I might on that route be able to go to 4 different stores, spend the night in Woodward, Oklahoma, then drive 2.5 hours, 3 hours to Guyman, Oklahoma. So that meant a lot of windshield time. It meant a lot of days away from the family. And it was him in those little needing and wanting mama that really caused me to make a decision to change, and thought, well, maybe my trajectory is not here vertically going up through the Walmart chain and field operations, but maybe it's somewhere else. And so my sponsor and mentor at the time is just amazing. She's a friend. She's been my friend. Brought me over to the home office, which is where I served there for 7 years. But I really believe, Karen, that the things that change us sometimes are bad things. And so it was a phoenix moment. I'm going to describe it as such. When I was laid off from Walmart after being there for 25 years, I was kicked out of the nest. Oh my God. And I went through the entire grieving cycle. I mean, I just literally burned right into the ashes because I was mourning this really inconsequential thing, the identity that was born out of 25 years in an organization, the level of executive that I was. I mean, the friendships I thought I had, right? And I get laid off, and there's 3 people that call me to say, "Oh my God, what happened? Where are you? What do you need? I'm going to do anything I can for you." So were they really friends? I mean, you know, and the reason why I said this was valuable is because there I had to have that moment in my life where I was humbled and taken back into a place where I had to find out who I was now, redefine Carol Silva Morales, redefine my purpose, articulate my value proposition. What was I good at? And keep in mind, ladies, I was working for Fortune 1, the top company in the United States. I was leading the design and development for 1.5 million associates across the United States. And I still had to question what my worth was. I mean, sometimes we get in our own way. And that was the perfect example of me getting in my own way. But what it did is it put me out into the private sector. And all of a sudden, I was doing things I hadn't done before. So I was a consultant. I was doing business development. I was really working in my passion with diversity and inclusion work, and served as a strategist for JB Hunt as they launched their diversity, equity, and inclusion work. I've got to do nonprofit or capacity building for nonprofit organizations right here in Northwest Arkansas. I got to do outreach to the Latino and Marshallese communities here. So keep in mind that on top of that, I was a people leader. I was an operations guru. I was, I mean, I had a $326 million business. So when I was out here working in the community, serving these nonprofits, I was happy. I was happy. So it didn't take long for a recruiter to come by and say, "Hey, so we're starting a new organization called Upskill NWA, and we want you to be our president and CEO. Would you consider interviewing for this? Because we feel like you were built for this thing." And I was. All that time, I was this vessel, and people were pouring their time and their talents and treasures into me in preparation for this purpose. It is life-changing when you can sit back and assess all the ways in which you have been developed and built for your purpose in this life. It's really remarkable.
And it gives me goosebumps, Carol. Gives me
Me
all the
too.
gives me all the goosies.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to cry. I mean, I tend to, because this is me and this is my, heart on my sleeve. And hopefully, Karen, there's a little bit of something in there for someone.
I have zero doubt that every word that you're saying is intended for, if nobody else, it's intended for me to hear. So I'm just going to be selfish and say you're talking directly to me in this moment. But I know the ladies in this room, and I know that you are touching everyone's heart with this story.
Thank you.
So fast forward to your future and look at what the plans are for the next phase of Carol Moralez and what you want to accomplish and how you want to show up and choose to empower other women. What does that plan look like for you? And how are you seeing it differently because of this journey that you've gone through and the evolution of all things that have created this opportunity?
Karen, that's such a great question. I'm sure I'm going to get emotional here, but I do want to share this. So,
You are in a safe space. And
okay, good.
if you ask the ladies on this call, I cry every single time we get on the call.
You and I
So
have cried together.
we
cried
have.
together.
So this is a sisterhood of women who hold space for that. So just be as vulnerable as you're willing to go. We are here for you.
Oh, thank you, Karen. So I mentioned that I don't have my mother and father anymore. And they died, I mean, relatively young. My mama was 63. My father was 67. She died of cancer, and he died of a surgery complication. But when I was with my father last, this was in 2019, and he had gotten sick, and my sister and I were taking care of him. We went home to Texas. My sister lives in San Antonio, and I live here in Bentonville, Arkansas. So we went home to take care of him, and he had had enough. My father was a cowboy, very independent, working all the time. He did not like to be babied, and he had had enough. And so he says to me, Mija, which means my daughter in Spanish, it's time for you to go. He says, I raised you to fly. He died the very next day. I will always remember those words, because when you ask the question for what is next, Karen, it is in sharing my story in the hopes that it will inspire someone to action. Oftentimes, as women, we will get in the way of ourselves. And in meeting our full potential, we talk ourselves out of it. We put ourselves in second or third or fourth place. We say, can come up with all the reasons why we shouldn't do things. I do this because I believe that I am serving in God's purpose for my life. And that purpose includes doing this amazing work. And I want to talk about that. But also in sharing the story of how anything is possible. For many, many years, I looked at the fact that I didn't graduate from college, and I haven't yet. I'm a college student. But that I didn't graduate as a detriment. It was shameful. When I got this role, and I was in the final interview for this, I said, hey, does it make a difference that I don't have my degree? And the amazing Jeff Webster, president of the Accelerate Foundation, said, hey, it's your superpower. Haven't you spent all these years proving to everyone that you could do anything? I said, yes. goes, you don't need a degree for this. You've already proven to me that you're capable. Now, if you want the degree, then by all means go out there and get it. It doesn't mean a damn to me. I know what you're capable of. I cannot explain what that means to someone who had been carrying around this insecurity for so long. But he's right. I did spend my life proving I could do anything. Sometimes it came at the expense of my family because I was working 100 hours a week. I don't have to do that anymore. I do this work with the support of my family and my children. When I got this role, I don't know that I need to do anything else after this. I'm going to tell you this story about the president of CEOs. And I intentionally use those words. I told my sister about this job, and I'd picked up Ava, my 7-year-old daughter, and she was sitting in the back seat. I hung up the phone and she says, "Mommy, did you just say you are the president of CEOs?" I straightened myself out. Yes, Mia, I did just say I'm the president of CEOs. And she says, "Yay!" And she's doing this. "Mommy's the president of CEOs. I'm going to be the president of CEOs." Wow. That's why I do this thing. Because I have a 7-year-old daughter and I have a 13-year-old son and a 15-year-old son and an 18-year-old son. They need to see that anything is possible. Anything is possible. And it doesn't matter what I'm the CEO of. The fact is that I am one. And so every time I'm going to be given a seat at that table, one, I'm going to ask myself to be invited to that table. I'm going to take the seat at the table and I'm going to say, hopefully, very inspiring things. But I'm taking that seat and I'm lifting my voice because representation matters. Whether you're a woman, you're a Latina, you're the only, it matters.
Okay. I kept trying to put my glasses back on, but I couldn't because I kept crying. Oh, Carol, I think you absolutely, I mean, gosh. So your story is so, so powerful. The message in it of acceptance and forgiveness and empowerment is just so beautiful. But the story of your daughter just nailed it to the wall on why we do what we do, because there's always someone watching, and everything we're doing is not just for us and for the immediate, but we're always building a bridge and a path for someone else.
Yes. And Karen, that's why what I do at Upskill NWA, I want to share this because you will see for yourself what this has meant. Upskill NWA is an organization that we just started. So we launched in July of 2021 and I was placed in October 2021. So there was launched before there was actually an organizational structure in place to do it. On November 1st, we interviewed our very first Upskill NWA participant. And on December 31st, we committed our 100th participant. They launched in a cohort in January of 2022. What we do is we pay for education for low-income workers to go back to school. And they get placed in high-demand, high-wage jobs. So the model is something that is in place in San Antonio, Texas, in Austin, Texas, in Houston, El Paso, Laredo, in various different organizations, but all started with Project Quest in San Antonio. And Project Quest uses a model that brings 3 critical components: It is educators. So we work with an institute that does certificates, work with a 2-year college. We work with a 4-year university, University of Arkansas's Medical Sciences here. It also includes businesses. So there's 5 major hospital systems here. They're all our partners. And then the other circle, the other component is health and human services. So the model says that the upskill NWA participant, via contractual agreement, everybody's got a contractual agreement in place. The participant agrees to go to school and graduate and interview with all 5 hospital systems. The education partners agree to give us access to the students where they go to school. They agree to reserve slots. The student still has to qualify, they still have to apply, but they get an extra point if they're with Upskill NWA. The businesses give us working team members so we know exactly what those high demand jobs are. They agree to interview all of our participants. And then, and they pay us 1/3 of the cost of the training program, of the education. It's significant. Now, what this means, and I can speak to it from various angles, from a dollars and cents perspective, I'll give you the real life example of our most recent graduates, 18 of them. We've been able to place 17 within 60 days of graduation. Their average pre-program income was $17,500 a year.
Wow.
Their average post-placement income is $53,800 a year. We have made an impact in 1 year of $618,000 from 18 graduates, and we still got the rest of them to go, and
Wow.
84 more that will be filling for 2023. What this program is, so that's the dollars and cents, but the piece that really touches my heart is the generational impact. Because what we know about participants in this program from Project Quest that has been measuring this for 30 years is that 70% of the children of those participants go to college
That's
against a
amazing.
baseline of 45%. So when we do any event, we bring the entire family together, and the entire family is taking pictures in the cap and gown. So it might be dad and kiddo, or it's mom and kiddo. I'm going to have to send you the email of these images, Karen, so that you can see them. But many times our participants are first generation. They're veterans that are now transitioning into the workforce because maybe their credentials haven't been able to translate. I'm thinking about medics as an example. These are, it's a rainbow of colors. So part of being the only is some of the challenges that I face in some of these rooms, because I've been in quorum courts and city council meetings, and to have justices of the peace or city council members say, well, can white people do this program? Is this only for Latinos? And my answer is always the same. Poverty knows no demographic. Every single one of us is represented in this band of people who are earning $20,000 a year. And every single one of those folks is represented in the Upskill NWA program. 51% of our population, our cohort, is Caucasian. 51%. The other percentages are through people of color, but we have, of course, Latinos, Black, Marshallese, because we have the largest population of those Pacific Islanders here in Northwest Arkansas. Native Americans, because we have Oklahoma right next door and the Cherokee Nation and all that stuff. So, I mean, we're this melting pot of diversity, and they're all represented within Upskill NWA. So it's really, really special.
I
Really
love
should.
that. I love that you shared that about the diversity and just the opportunities primarily. What does NWA represent? What does it stand for? I mean,
Oh, thank you. Sorry. I get so used to speaking it. Northwest Arkansas.
okay.
So there's specific counties here and
Mhm.
cities that we represent. When you say NWA, it means that there's 6 big cities here and 2 major counties, Benton County and Washington County. So thank you for asking that question.
So does the upskill NWA only work with people from Northwest Arkansas?
It does now,
Okay.
but I'll tell you that we have had a lot of momentum, and I've been sitting with the governor of Arkansas. Pinch me, I'm dreaming. But I've been sitting with the governor of Arkansas about 4 weeks ago, and
Mhm.
I posted it on my LinkedIn. So make sure you connect with me, ladies.
I
To
shared
get
your link so they could join or
Oh,
so they
thank
could connect with you.
you. Good. Um, but it's really been amazing the opportunities that we've had to be in some really cool conversations. And I'll tell you, one of the things I'm very encouraged with is the U.S. Department of Commerce, because we were one of 60 national finalists for this Build Back Better grant,
Mhm.
community grant, and it meant that it was this extremely rigorous process, which for
Right.
a first year CEO, invaluable. But being in that circle and then being cut down to the final 40 means that we have a lot of people that want to talk to us now and are
Yeah.
interested in possibly funding this effort. And so and I'm excited. I don't know that that answered your question, Karen. I'm sorry. I
It
was thinking
did. So
about
is Upskill a nationwide program, but
Oh,
you're the branch of NWA? So NWA is the Northwest Arkansas branch
yes,
of Upskill. So,
yes. And
okay.
so now we're being approached on scaling out to the rest of Arkansas.
Okay. Fantastic.
And we just don't know what we're going to do yet. There's a lot of
Yeah.
opportunity, and this is Northwest Arkansas, home of Walmart. So we've been approached about drone operators and some things that kind of fall out of trades and IT a little
Gotcha.
bit. So
I love it. Okay. So I want to give an opportunity. Does anyone have questions for Carol? Carol's objective today was really just to be available, to be very heart-centered for our group, and to kick us off with something that was maybe a little different than a traditional conference, where she's just bespoke pouring out from her heart and being available for us. So I love that you're ready on the spot and not afraid to step into the room. So any questions for Carol from our group?
don't be shy.
Don't see anybody in the chat.
Do you mind if I just come off mute and talk instead of, I was about to type it?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Laura.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you, Carol, for sharing your story. And I truly believe that everybody has a story, and that's what makes us unique. And like you said, listening, I really honed in on that. That fear is an evil. Don't let fear, take you down or be afraid of taking that next step. I
Yes.
love that you talk about champion your tribe and getting those fans. In a leadership role myself, I try to do the very same thing because those opportunities were afforded to me.
Yes.
So I like to turn that around to my staff, my people, my tribe, and try to empower them and look at those little nuggets of encouragement, empowerment, support, because I have a staff of 10 women myself.
Mm.
And so I guess my question is, what are your, what would be your advice? Pardon me. What would be your advice, and what what encouragement, support, you already shared some of that before, but what would you say to another CEO who is trying to champion their tribe and build the next leaders? Because what I'm looking for now is building my succession plan.
Wonderful.
So what would be your advice to do that, to champion other leaders?
Ooh, Laura, such a great question, and I love this. So as someone who, you remember how I said I was hired in October, and the company was, Upscale NWA was formally launched and announced in July. So I had this time, two people had been hired before me, and then there was me, and then there was me influencing a couple of the other hires. And I was in this role, Laura, because remember I said I served as that executive and strategist for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I spent the better part of 3 years working with the COO of JB Hunt and his presidents and EVPs, and talking about building these high impact cultures and fostering inclusivity. People who felt like they had a voice and felt like they belonged in the space. And so now, as the CEO, I was forced to live the words I had been saying the whole time. And I would argue that when I was a store manager for Walmart, my success was really because I had the ability to bring people along, and having a Walmart store in a market was very complex. But I applied those same principles when I became the CEO of Upscale NWA to say, look, we're new, and meaning we're new to the roles. We don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers. So let us move forward together. Obviously, we all understand what our roles and responsibilities are. But when we're faced with challenges as an organization, which were many in the beginning, oh, what do we do with this situation and that situation? And what's our policy on this or that? And literally, Lauren, we were writing them as we went along and faced situation by situation. But it was always with the team in the room. So we would say, one, guys, let us agree that let's reserve the right to get smarter as we move through this process. And of course, we were a new organization, so that's a little different probably from what your situation is. But this is a new organization. We don't know everything, but man, we can find out. We're resourceful. We've got great people here who support us. We're not doing this alone, but let's all share our opinions about how this should work. So we would design things together. And so I would intentionally call them design sessions, brainstorming sessions. I made room and created opportunities where we were all together ideating, finding solutions, reaching consensus, and moving forward. And what that did actually was change the way we worked together as a team. So all of a sudden, the women who are career navigators, they're the ones that are assigned to the participants one-on-one to help them kind of mentor and coach them. All of a sudden they were saying, "Ooh, Carol, well, maybe this didn't work as well, but I want to suggest this. Or when I was on campus yesterday, I heard about this change in the program. We need to talk about this because it's got bigger, broader implications." So all of a sudden, they were funnels for information. They were extensions of me out there with our customers, if you will, but our clients. So I saw direct outcomes and benefits of having those group chats. And then, Lauren, another thing that I did was I set up one-on-one time with them to talk about their personal development goals. So even though we're new, even though we're writing policies and procedures, and I still wanted to make sure that they knew how important their personal development was, and that I was willing to consider anything. I was willing to consider certification, so extra money. I was willing to consider paying for their education. I was willing to consider all of these things. So for me, that's how it plays out in my own organization. And it's recognized, we get a lot of feedback from our own Accelerate Foundation and Jeff Webster, who I mentioned. Um, and so it's working so far.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Those nuggets I will
Pleasure.
take back and use those.
All right.
Thank you.
Please call me or text me or message me if there's any other questions, if you want anything more specific, Lauren.
I sure will. Thank you so
All right.
much. Mhm.
Yes. You're
Are there
welcome.
any resources that you found that really help someone scale from, let's say, a regular, not even a management role, but they're just, so for Laura, she's a president of a credit union, and it's a small credit
Mhm.
union branch. So it's very intimate, they're very close, and it's in San Angelo, so a small community.
Oh, yeah. So I was raised in Brownwood, Laura. So yeah, I know exactly. You're in my backyard.
So for
Wow.
her, what resources, because obviously the credit union has their educational resources, but what other resources would you advise for someone considering a presidential future for
Mm,
secession for her?
I'll tell you what, that's such a great question, Karen. I don't know that I have the right answer, but I'll tell you some things that have happened for me that have been, I think, helped me to transition into this role. So one is, there's not a book out there that tells you how to be a president and CEO. I was looking for one and I just couldn't find it. But there are other presidents and CEOs that, in my case, a Jeff Webster, who took me under his wing to say, hey, we're going to go talk to every city council member. We're going to go talk to the mayor, and we're going to go talk to justices of the peace and this and that. And he recognized and where my strengths lay, and I was able to say, I agree with that. I happen to sit on the mayor's council in Bentonville, and I know her and the city council members. So let me do what I do and connect the dots there, and we'll go together. In other places, he took the lead, and I was able to, in real time, recognize how he prepared for these conversations. That's very, very important. I was able to, sorry, silence my phone real quick. Able to have direct feedback and coaching in real time. I was able to ask for any resource. So as an example, I said, I want to do negotiations training because you are so good at this. What is this framework that he uses? Is it a formal framework? It was this hand in hand mentoring, coaching that was so valuable. And then I said to some of my other friends, because remember, I was an executive at Walmart, so I knew the COO of Walmart and all this kind of stuff. So I had to say, can you help me? I noticed that you do this so well. Teach me how to do that. Was there some CEO conference you went to? What? Like, help. And so I haven't fully grown into my power as a president and CEO. I'm always learning, but I'm wise enough to know that there are other people who have already done this. One of the other really amazing, I think, fortuitous developments in the last couple of weeks is my prior company, Serve to Perform, does a national executive coaching certification. So I am also a nationally certified executive coach. And the program requires that the person who's going through the certification coach a nonprofit leader. And so it happens to be that a national president and CEO of a national organization is going through their certification, and I'm the nonprofit leader she's going to be coaching. So I'm like, well, this is fantastic. And so I think there's a lot of ways, Laura, to go back to your, or Chris, I'm sorry, maybe you asked it, Karen, but, we've got to reach out there and know what, when we see something good, and then we need to identify, oh, that's the skill that I want to learn, and I'd love to learn it from that person. Then we've got to, again, quiet that little voice inside and just go out there and ask. Go out there and ask. But it does take due diligence on your part to know and recognize where some of those gaps are.
Right, that is so true. And maybe just to piggyback, there are times that you can be a mentor, and there are times that you can be a mentee. And so exactly, like being a forever student, that's what I tell my people. You just got to be a sponge and listen with your eyes and your ears, and know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and go out, get your tribe, get your network of women. And that's what Texas Businesswomen is so wonderful. And I would not be here in my position today had it not been for the professional leadership and development from TBW. So I give that testimony strong and forefront the first time that I introduced myself. So thank you for sharing your story and for that advice. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So good. Any last parting thoughts or any final questions for Carol? I'll ask that first, and then I'll let you do your parting words before we jump off and transition to our next speaker.
I just want to say thank you. I mean, I enjoyed your motivation, and you didn't let it get you down that, you let Walmart dished you. You went out there and you found what you're truly good at, and thank you for sharing your story.
So Carol, I apologize. I did not introduce Laura Garza properly. Laura is our president of Texas Businesswomen this year and next year. So.
Me da mucho gusto conocerla, Laura.
Igualmente aquí, igualmente. Tiene su casa aquí en San Antonio.
Oh, see? Gosh, I gotta tell you about San Antonio. So my sister lives there. She graduated from St. Mary's. Oh yeah. Woo! And I attended the University of Texas in San Antonio. So I'm a UTSA road runner. But since that time, I've been at American University, University of Arkansas. So, but I began my journey there, Laura. It has this very special place in my heart. So my Walmart store was out there at 1604 by Rolling Oaks Mall. And I lived in Stone Oak, which was halfway across it's the circle, the loop. I was over on the other side, which meant my daily commute was very, very long, but my heart is in San Antonio. So thank you. So good to meet you, Laura. Please make sure that we get connected.
Yes, I sent you the LinkedIn already.
Oh,
you,
good.
So I'm excited
you.
to follow you and see what other great things are coming from you, and I'm just amazed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
So I mentioned this at the beginning, but Carol has graciously agreed to come and join us for our state conference in June. So she will be here for our annual conference and be a part of our speaker series. And we'll get to hug her neck and have her home and host her with some great Texas food. And, I don't know about you, but when I go back home, I always love to eat. I love to eat everywhere, but I just love to go home and eat. It's something special. So
it is.
Thank you so much. So any final words before we wrap up and transition?
I would say my final words are this. I think, boy, I want to encourage you all to, as Laura said very well, being these lifelong learners and students, there's a very unique reward in being open to learning more. And when I say we reserve the right to get smarter, that's what I mean. We
Yeah.
don't come to a place where we just know everything. That just never happens. Each of us, I truly believe, is trying to make a difference in this world. There's so much going on, so much noise out there clouding all the good work that needs to be done.
Mhm.
And so I encourage you to keep going. Keep going, grow your circle, bring others along, because the world needs more of us out there. Let's not get into the uh, pitfalls of red or blue, black or white. No, humanity needs people like us who are
Amen.
moving other people forward and bringing other people along and really serving in our purpose. If we really truly can see ourselves as extensions of what is good in this world, then we can truly make a difference together. We're a tribe now. Like you brought me in. I'm here. Ask me questions, reach
Mhm.
out, suggestions. I mean every word I say. I
Thank you.
will answer you. I will text you. I will do my best to serve you. You just got to do your part and ask.
I
And
love
so,
it.
Karen, thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
Thank you.
Carol. So,
Thank you.
as
And
we said in the
welcome to,
beginning,
yes, and welcome
she-
to Kimberly. I know she said she's from San Antonio. Whoop, whoop. And I'm sorry I won't get to stay for that. I've got some matches to get into, but I love being part of the Texas Business Women Familia. I cannot wait to see you all in
yes,
June.
it is a sisterhood, and we are so happy to welcome
Feel
you
it.
officially into the sisterhood. And we said in the beginning, her son is wrestling today, so she's on the road and about to go into, that's the match. She mentioned it's a wrestling match. So she's not wrestling, her son is,
Right.
but she's cheering him on from the
Yes.
sidelines. So good luck to him. And I'm so sorry, what is his first name? I forgot.
So his name is Thomas. We named him
Thomas.
Thomas, but he named himself Jet when he was 4. So he's
Jet.
been
I
Jet
knew it
ever
was
since.
something different. Yes,
Yeah.
Jet. Okay. All right. Well, good luck to Jet, and
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for sharing all that you did, and we can't wait to see you in June.
I can't wait. Take care,
Thank you, Carol.
ladies.
All right. Oh my gosh. I am so grateful for the women that are showing up today. And ladies, you are in such good company, because our next speaker is my friend Adapia Dierico, and she is now on the call with us. She is an entrepreneur, an investor, advisor, and co-founder of Women of Wealth, an organization that's dedicated to elevating women financially. She's a C-level executive with 20 years of experience across countries, cultures, corporations, and startups. She played a major role in establishing the real estate crowdfunding industry, and one of her public talks has been viewed over 40 million times. Adapia's purpose is to lead women to claim their birthright to abundance and to become stewards of personal and global wealth. Her topic today is productive intuition, and why intuition is a business skill and tool. And from my Leadership Global sisterhood, my other sisterhood that you guys got to meet Linda Fisk at our annual conference this past year, that's where I met Adapia. And I just want to welcome you today. And I'm going to make you co-host, so that if you need to share your slides, you are all set. And thank you. Welcome to our conference and to the Texas Business Women Sisterhood, Adapia.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm coming at you from Los Angeles. So I have my my coffee. It's a little earlier for me, but
It is 8 a.m. So thank
it
you for
is
joining us so bright and
yeah,
early.
it is 8 a.m. No, it's good. It's good. I'm really happy to be here. And I do have a slide deck. I mean, we could do it in a couple different ways, but I feel like with this, we can have the slides up. And it's not like a big formal presentation per se, but I think that it helps to ground, you know, to ground it when it's this topic. So where's the little thing at the bottom that makes it go? There we go. Okay, does that work for everyone? Do you see the
Yes,
screen?
we can
Okay.
see it. Perfect.
Okay, wonderful. So just for a little bit of context, and I'll get into my story. So I wrote a book called Productive Intuition, Connecting to the Subtle. And that book finally came through in its full form in 2020 during the pandemic, because that was a gift that I received, was the time to really reflect and to really understand this journey and really pull together the journey I had been on and also where I was going. So, oh, it's not moving. Okay, hold on a second. I can't make this move. Okay. So, so a little bit about me, in the context of business is I am an investor primarily in real estate private equity. So I'm a partner at a private equity firm. I do a lot of venture angel investing. I invest in a lot of women and minorities. I really strongly, firmly believe that as my income and my earning and my investments grow, actually my favorite thing to do is just to turn around and reinvest it and reinvest all that cash flow and reinvest all those gains. And I'm doing that more and more into women and women founders and women firms. So this is how we fundamentally shift things. Like, we have to stay in business and we have to found companies and we have to take board seats and we have to go out and be there. And I know Carol was saying that earlier, and I was just, you know, emphatically nodding my head yes, because, and this is really important. This is why I founded Women of Wealth, because I really want more women to have more money. I need money to be redistributed, so that we can invest it the way that women would do. And that's how we change this world. And so I, you know, Women of Wealth is my purpose. It is my dharma, to continue to show up. And there was a time when I did not think that I could ever be in the business world again. So I've had a few awakenings in my life, like spiritual, and awakening was really destructive, which is usually how they are. They destroy the veil of who we think we are, because we're meant to see who we truly are underneath it. And so in 2017, I was, at that point in time, I was the COO of a fintech firm, and I was commuting from LA to San Francisco a lot. I had a lot riding on that in terms of who I thought I was, my identity, my sense of power and accomplishment. You know, having started in a bank, I started working in a bank when I was 18. And so I was very ambitious and very adamant about being successful. And as women, we have so much that we have to battle for, to have respect and to have position. And it's not always ego. It really is a form of survival. So I was in this position, I reached this role, and essentially I committed what some people might consider to be career suicide. And I left. That was the pinnacle of my career. I was 38 at the time. So 20 years after starting as a teller in a bank, I was the chief operating officer of a fintech firm. And I left. I left because I felt internally something almost like an earthquake, like something really was changing in my life, and I needed to change, and I needed to find purpose. And so in 2017, this was the fall of 2017 when the Me Too movement really happened, and really started rather. And I thought I was going to take all of this experience, the strength of who I was, and this process that I could feel myself realizing that I wasn't entirely living according to some values that were really important to me. And so I thought, I'm going to take this leap of faith and I am going to become a coach and a speaker. And in reality, and so I left that job. I completely left my career, but inside I left because I knew that it was not aligned for me anymore. But I really felt strongly like, oh, if I follow my passion, everything's going to work out. Well, nothing worked out. Absolutely nothing worked out, which was like the irony of it all. Because as I was leaving that, I left that job and I said, here, this is what I'm going to do. I reached out to all my contacts. I started to do some speaking. I started to get some coaching clients, but then within a matter of months, all of that it just all fell away and it all crumbled. People weren't paying, like just things weren't working out. And I found myself in a state of also financial distress because I no longer had the income that I had before. We had a house under construction. And here I thought like, people aren't paying, and I'm not used to being a solo entrepreneur. Like I had been in startups for a long time at that point, but it was very different. And so I found that everything was crumbling. And at the same time, also, I couldn't really make anything work anymore. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I am a successful businesswoman. Why is nothing in my life working? There's got to be something wrong with me. And so I went seeking answers, and I was very much pulled into the more of the spiritual world, which I had started to get to know myself more as a woman as far back as 2013, when I started to really get into yoga, which was the first thing that sort of opened me up a little bit more. But here in this case, I really didn't know who I was anymore. If I couldn't be successful in business of any kind, then I literally had no idea who I was. And so I went on a really deep journey for a couple of years of really trying to understand this, like who I am. And it took me very much into the spiritual side of things. And because that's where I actually found my answers. And some of those answers were that I was going through an ego death. I was going through this death, like that of leaving my business, my career, and trying to understand truly like who I was. And what was funny about that is that when I left my business, like kind of my business background, I almost immediately made an unconscious decision to say, that is bad. I was bad because I wasn't, here I am learning about my true nature and like really the spiritual side of me that from a very young age I had set aside. I set aside the magic that I have. I had set aside my understanding of intuition, like my empathy, like all the soft and the feminine and like the right brain stuff. Like I made that bad in my head because I went into linear business world. And so as I left the linear business world, I made all of that got me there bad too. And so that was my ego just trying to move over and say, oh, now you need to be a business person in the spiritual world. Well, no, that really was not it at all. So I go through this, and as I'm going through all of this, like I'm realizing a lot about who I really am. And I'm realizing actually like how much I was and have always been intuitive. And so at a certain point in a moment of absolute total despair, as nothing is working in my life, I was like shaking my fists at the universe. I was really mad and I was crying and I was upset because I did not know what I would do anymore. And I blurted out, I just want to work with some amazing business partners who just want me to be myself. I don't want to be a solopreneur. It just blurts out as I'm like crying and just on my knees. And it was unexpected to me because in my head up here, I had been telling myself that business was like no longer for me. I had to be over here as I had been learning about my other nature. And so 3 days later, I received a phone call from a group that I had been informally advising because, people were people, I was still in touch to some degree with people in the business, in my former business life. And it was this group, private equity, real estate group, small group. And they called me about 3 days after that and said, hey, like, we're going to be in LA, would love to meet you. So the following week we meet, and they basically asked me to be their partner because 2 of their founders were leaving. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. That did not just happen. That kind of stuff doesn't happen to me. It happens in movies like The Secret. And what I did with them is I set very clear boundaries of what I was willing to do and not do, because in the undoing of me, I also realized where I had not set clear boundaries, where I had let myself be trampled, where I did things that I didn't want to do. And I recognized all these things. And I said, I had nothing to lose, because at that point, I was still very much thinking I'm going to be the spiritual leader. So when they asked me, I thought, here's like a financial lifeline. And I can work with this, and maybe I can still kind of have like the passion project on the side. So I was like, okay, this is really interesting. So to me, I had nothing to lose. And I said, I'll work part-time. I'll do these things. And so I joined I did join as partner, and that's the firm I'm still with today. And I went into that firm, and, even though I was still going through all of this internal upheaval, because it's years, to really figure some of this stuff out, I had this lifeline, and I went back into business, scaled the investor side of their business because it was struggling. And I found I actually really like this again. I'm really good at this. And my husband had said at one point, because I had been invited to a conference to speak, and I came back from that conference. It had been a while since I had spoken on stage in a business setting. And he said, he's like, you're never this happy when you talk about all your spiritual stuff. It was like, what do you mean? And he's like, no, he's like, you are just so in your element right now. He's like, you're so in your element. And so many things were coming and going, but mostly going. And the big realization I had at that time was, if I don't stay in the business world, I'm not going to change anything. I can't be this, my purpose is not a thing or a place. It's whatever I want to do. It's where I come from. And that's why I decided to fully root myself back in business. And I'll tell people I'm a bit of a Trojan horse, because I believe very strongly in integrating our practical and our spiritual, the feminine, the masculine, everything that I learned, as esoteric as I got with my understanding and learning. I'm also extremely practical. And that's really the women of wealth piece, is that if we don't ground financially in the system, even though it's not a system that's geared for our success, but if we don't use the system, if we don't play the game, we're getting played. And I refuse to be played. And so with everything that I have, with an open heart, with an open mind, with everything that I understand spiritually, I show up in the finance world. And I am a Trojan horse, because I'm here to change it from the inside out. And a lot of this journey really is about this curiosity and questions and intuition, because I was sitting there for so many, I still do today. Sometimes I'm like, God, why is this not working? Like, what is going on? And so this curiosity and this questions that led me to figure this out, because I cannot just sit in my own self-pity for too long. I will find a way out of it. And that's really what led me to fully understand, how did I reintegrate all of this power? How did I find this confidence? How did I get where I am? And it's taken me a while. And it's because I constantly ask questions. And the number one practice, and I promise we'll get more into the intuition piece here in a second, is rooted in self-reflection. Like, we always have questions. We have the answers inside. We just don't think we do, because we've been taught that the answers are outside of us. They're not. The answers are inside of us. The beauty of intuition is that we are intuitive, not we have it, we are it. And so when we need to find answers, all we need to do is sit quietly and ask ourselves and get those answers, because we're always connected. We're always connected to, whether you want to call it God, source, field, everything. It's a call and response mechanism. And so I have some questions here for self-reflection for you, because we as women, especially, we have more access to more of our emotional brain. We have more access to the right brain. It's just how we're hardwired. And we are more intuitive than men, tendentially. And so what, like, some questions for you, you can work on them today or what have you, is like, what do you believe about intuition? And do you believe that you're intuitive? And do you listen to your intuition? In my journey, I realized, like, oh, wow, I am actually really intuitive. I didn't think I was. I didn't understand how it worked. And so that's really what led me to write the book, because the book it really is my journey of awakening and my understanding of that whole process and how I was able to practically ground everything that I was learning in a way that made sense for me, as I wanted to stay in the business world, because that was part of this awakening, was like, you want to be in the business world. This is actually where you belong. Adapia, bloom where you've planted yourself. I planted myself in finance when I was 18. There's got to be a reason for that. It just took me 20 years to figure it out, which is fine, because we mature and we have to have these experiences and we have to learn about ourselves through our own actions. So what is intuition? Here's what I learned about it, because of course this is my perspective. It's transcendent intelligence. Intuition is a form of intelligence. We get so caught up in, Western thought, Cartesian thought. I think, therefore I am. It really is, I am, period. And then maybe, therefore I can think. But intuition is transcendent intelligence. It goes beyond our mental understanding. It goes beyond whatever we've been taught, because we've been taught through the lens of the left brain, especially in Western. I mean, if you go to India, they get taught a very different way. Ayurveda, which I studied, and I did in part of some of my personal training, I've done yoga psychology training. And so it's really beautiful the way that the Vedas and just like Vedic thinking and thought and practice really integrates all parts of who we are, which is really important, because we separate ourselves constantly. I'm this person over here. I'm this person to this group. I have to be different over here. And actually the truth is, and we always push our spiritual nature aside, and it's never welcome in business, or it hasn't been for a long time. I think that's changing. And now it's like, actually, I'm a whole entire person. And that makes me so much more grounded. And it also makes me more effective. So intuition is knowing beyond reason. How many times have you known something? You're just like, I know. And you don't need an explanation. You don't even need to rack your brain. You don't need to answer anyone or ask. You're just like, I know this. And you have no rational answer for why you know it. That's intuition. That is intuition, and we all have it. It's so powerful. It's subtle sensations. It's like this energetic field that we have, subtle sensations that we feel. That's intuition. It's like little nudges, little things, like all of that super subtle intuition. That's why the book is called Productive Intuition, Connecting to the Subtle. It's subtle. It's not overt. Sometimes it's overt. Sometimes we get hit in the head with a 2x4 by the universe. It's like over here, right? But for the most part, intuition is very, very subtle. And so it's up to us to get connected to those subtle signals. And it's an inner guidance system. That is what intuition really is. It's guiding us constantly. Most of the time we're not listening because we think it's always about thinking. And too much rational thinking thought is the antithesis of intuition. And so it really is an inner guidance system. So a few more questions for self-reflection for you is, how does intuition show up for you? You know, like sometimes and I did too, I thought like, well, intuitives are these like clairvoyants. Well, I don't see things. That's not, you know, and like the clairs, like that's not it. That's not intuition. That's actually something very different. That is a skill. That is clairvoyance. That is not intuition. Very different. That's a skill you can develop. But like, how does intuition show up for you? Do you know? I mean, if you're connected to it, is it feelings? Is it sensations? Is it audio? Is it knowing? And for some visuals, like it's a skill, but it's not the thing that we think that intuition is. And then another one is like, where do your best ideas come from? Like, where do ideas come from anyway? That's all part and parcel of the subtle, of the knowing, of the connecting to who we are, truly who we are. It's inner authority. It's I am my own authority. I don't have to listen to anyone else. Like, we've been taught that all the answers are outside of us. There's some other expert that's got to tell us who we are and what to do and what's right and what's wrong. And like, granted, when we're children, of course, there's, you know, for our survival, but we get conditioned so much that we really forget how powerful we are. We're deconditioned from our true nature. And it takes a long time for some of us to let go of all of that conditioning. That is the ego death or identity death or awakening. All it is a deconditioning. It's a peeling off of these layers of everyone that we thought we were, had to be for other people. And it's a remembering. You know, wisdom is a process of subtraction. It's not addition. It's not let me learn more. It's subtraction. It's let me unlearn all the things that told me that I don't have my own answers. That's wisdom. And so this is something, when I was doing my research, when I was pulling together my experiences, and even experiences that I was having during the pandemic, especially emotional ones, I did a lot of research for the book because I could not always relate. Most of the time, I could not relate to these ideas that people might just say, well, it's like this. And I'd be like, well, prove it. And I just couldn't, because my left brain is just like, I just don't believe you. I need proof. And not so much proof, but like, I need to understand. And so what I did is I did a huge amount of research, and I have a lot of science in the book because I needed my left brain to be on board. And this is something really important that I learned, was like, if my left brain, my rational brain, isn't on board, or like, you know, giving a dog a bone so that it keeps itself really busy, I can't unlock the rest of me. I can't unlock the part of me that really is always held behind the, you know, the prefrontal cortex, essentially. And it's also really important because that was also what I learned with my journey, is like, I can't shame, blame, or judge myself, any part of myself, because that part of myself that maybe pushed aside the feminine, pushed aside the intuitive, pushed aside the spiritual, was a form of survival. And it got me a lot of really good things. So I can't judge that, just as I can't judge the feminine and the intuitive, etc. So I brought it all together in the book, and integration is a really big word that I use. I'm embodied, I'm integrated in myself. So the book has, and I learned, and I'm going to share with you some practical things about intuition, because intuition, we are using it all the time in business, all the time. And I found it really helpful for me to understand where is intuition, so that it's subtle, but heck, at least I can figure some stuff out. Where is it? Where is it? It's in the body. Intuition is in this beautiful vessel that we so often dishonor in many ways. And I speak from experience. I was anorexic and overexercised and like all the things. I was not always very loving and kind to my body, but intuition is in the body. The body is literally a receptor. It receives signals all the time. Like maybe we don't see microwave signals, but we feel them. And this is truly the beauty of the body, why it's so important to get in touch with our body and subtle sensations, is because what we perceive through something called the default mode network in our brain is only like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the frequencies that are actually out there. Because that allows us to function as human beings. And so everyone has different levels of this default mode network. It's like a reducing valve. And the science around this is actually it's phenomenal. What they're finding, like people who are very advanced meditators, or when we work with maybe plant medicine, is that gets turned off. And what happens is we open up to all this other dimension that we just don't when we're needing to function in a certain way. And the body is the mechanism by which we are really working with our intuition. And which is why yoga as a practice is such an important practice, because the movements in yoga specifically tie the body to certain energetic channels and biological channels that allow us to relax, because in a relaxed state, we're receiving more information than when we're in a anxious, fight or flight state. That will absolutely kill intuition. It might bring instinct up, but when we're in fight or flight and anxious and like, we are not able to receive these messages because we're so, we're absolutely focused on survival. Probably why mental health has become, thankfully, a really big topic of discussion in business. So I think I mentioned this, you are hardwired with intuition. It's not that I have it. I literally am it. I am intuitive. So a little bit here on how intuition works. So I have so much more. I have so much more in the book. There's so much science. It's amazing. But it's in the mind. So even if we think about the right brain, that's the intuitive brain. The prefrontal cortex really is like the left brain, so to speak, but it's it's like a tiny little piece. Like our mind inside of our brain and what we have in there is very intuitive. And mind is also our connection to ideas and sensations out there. One of the best descriptions I ever remember learning is that, when we think about ideas and like my idea or your idea, all it is like I have connected to this field of energy and ideas, and I picked up that idea. Nothing is actually like mine from an egotistical perspective. I've just pulled it down from the field. And then you hear stories about how every invention that has ever come forward was simultaneously in multiple different places in the world at the exact same time. It's just that one person, brought it forward, or, just how history goes. But historically speaking, a lot of people around the world had the same idea at the same time. And speaking of brain, actually, and this is so intuition is in the body, strongly in the body. I mean, the neuroscience alone, the way emotions work is neurochemical. It's everywhere in our body. And we have three brains. We have the cerebral brain. We have the enteric brain in our gut. So most of the time intuition is like, where's intuition? It's in the gut feeling. That's not just a saying. We actually have more brain cells in our intestinal system than in this brain. We have more brain cells around our heart, like neurons, than we do up here, which is why a massively important piece of where intuition is the heart. And intuition in the heart, there's a spot right up here. It's not quite the fourth chakra. It's just a little bit up here that in certain traditions is this considered the seat of the soul. And so when the heart has a mind of its own, we've heard that too. The heart has a larger electromagnetic field than any other part of the body, much bigger than the brain, hundreds of times bigger than the brain. And so often when I meditate or I lead meditations, because we meditate every morning and in WOW together every Monday morning, is I oftentimes have us focus on the heart. And one of the most powerful meditations is even just to sit and ask your heart a question and then write what it says. It's very different than up here. It's very different than up here. The body contains, the body is so intelligent. It's so intelligent. It's mind blowing. And so intuition is literally biological. It's energetic. We have these energetic fields that we can feel. It is everywhere in us, through us. And so when we think about intuition, it's not just that esoteric, flash that we get here and there, or the clairvoyance or the clairaudience. It's actually like, this is intuitive. And so for self-reflection, where in your body do you get intuitive hits? Like, do you get it in your body? Like, when have you had, whether it's in any part of your body, really? And as we grow in awareness, we can start to sense different areas in the body. A lot of times they're connected to the chakra system, where you're like, oh, that's going up there, and it'll go at different times, and you'll know a yes and a no. You can feel a yes and a no in your body. And it's one of the most powerful and the simplest things, is to work with yourself to understand, like, what does yes feel like? And what does no feel like? And, do you get a gut feeling about people or situations? That one's an easy one. Like, what is your impression of a person? That is never wrong. Now, you want to maybe do some research if that first impression is no, bad, and your mind might go, wait, you can't think that, that's not okay. And it's like, okay, do some due diligence, make sure, because maybe at the same time, maybe your first impression, and you need to ask yourself, is this coming from my mind? Right? Or is it truly like my intuition saying no, or is it my mind being judgmental? And so it's up to us to learn how to discern between the two. But true intuition that is immediate, and it doesn't even require the question. Intuition is that fast. That is never wrong. But we might want to do some research just to make sure that it isn't. And most of the time I still do this to myself. And then I'm like, yeah, I was right the first time, but fine. I went on my little journey to figure it out. And I do this all the time. I also do this with things that I want. I always know what I want. And then I'm like, oh no, let me go see if there's something cheaper or something. No. And then it's always the first thing that I want. It's always the most expensive. But it's like knowing your taste, but you're like, God, I really just want that thing. But we have that sense about people. And so we really have to be careful, because the mind wants to override. Here's the trouble with the mind and our conditioning, is that we've been taught over and over and over again to question everything, which is fair. I think you should. I mean, I work in investments, we question a lot, we diligence a lot, a ton of questions, but that's different than questioning yourself in the sense of well, you shouldn't think that about that person. Are you sure that you're not just, because so-and-so, he or she is like so-and-so. And it's like, well, but maybe that person's not my people. Right. And that's okay too, because when we don't listen and we dishonor ourselves and we start to shut it down, and why would our intuition continue to come forward? Why would our very sensitive part of ourselves even come forward if we're constantly telling it to go away? And so this is also the nature of this, last question is, do you trust your intuition? And this is an exercise. This is a constant practice of working with our intuition. It's a practice. It's a powerful practice. And it's really important because we can harness intuition through self-awareness, the space of no mind. So this is where Albert Einstein spent a lot of time, of not thinking, of daydreaming, of strolling, go for a stroll, just no mind, don't think, just sometimes watch your dogs play. I don't know, that's just no thinking, the space of no mind. That's where we begin to harness intuition. Self-awareness is huge, noticing things, noticing our own story, noticing our emotions, noticing our body, noticing self-awareness. Interoception is a really interesting word. It is the physical practice of internal physical sensations. So it's like feeling yourself from the inside out. It's feeling the subtle sensations. There's a word for that, and it's called interoception. So intuition belongs in business because we're already using business all the time. Barbara Corcoran, I remember on a Twitter, not a Twitter space, Clubhouse, a while ago. She was in this Clubhouse room talking about business, and she just straight up was like, I do everything intuitively. She's like, I don't look at Excel. She's like, she's got, obviously has analysts for that, but she was like, all my best decisions, all my best acquisitions were all based on intuition. And you can talk to almost any business person. And this is the wild thing, is when I started to do this research, it was like, they were all intuitive, all of them. They all use it to some degree, whether they call it that or not, but most of the time they do. So intuition in action in business, why do we want to harness it? Why do we want to use it? Why do we want to honor it? Aside from it makes us whole and complete and more grounded and more confident in ourselves, we make better decisions with our intuition. We make faster decisions. It's like, oh, when you're really comfortable with your intuition, you're like, that's a yes, that's a no. Quick, done, I'm done, moving on. Problem solving with your intuition. Your creativity. I mean, I would reframe productivity completely as creativity, because productive, and that was a very choice word, because like, we're like, oh, productivity has to be this linear like output. No, productivity is not a linear output. Productivity is like the expression of everything that we are, all our gifts, all our skills. That is productivity. Productivity is just feeling that you have brought forward the best of yourself. And a lot of that's creative. And intuition in action is your creativity. Inspiration, inspiration means, it's I can't remember if it's Latin now, but it basically means spirit in form, right? It's in spirit, in inspire. And that is spirit. That is whatever you want to call it. That's what it is. That's what we are. Actually, we just are hosted in this body, in this world. But if you break it all down, it's just an energy field, and it's all moving, which is why we have, when we connect to our intuition, which is that subtle sense, we can truly, well, A, we're more confident, and B, I have manifestation, because it's not, manifestation isn't the appearance of something. It's the realization of it, because I've called it forward. I have made it happen. It's still me. And intuition helps us with that, because even knowing what we want truly, deeply, and saying yes to that, instead of like, oh, no, I shouldn't want that. Well, no, you probably should, because you do. And coming back in, better relationships. Definitely better relationships, which is everything in business, everything, communication, relationships, how we relate to another person. The more grounded and rooted we are in ourselves, and the confidence that we have from all of it, the better our relationships, better outcomes, definitely better outcomes, and more the flow state. There's books about this, like athletes, like musicians, like that is a form of intuition. That is how intuition, shows up. And so here are a few really simple practices. Journaling is one of my favorite. I love words. I love my words, but I love to journal, and with my hands, not like typing. There's something very powerful about this physical form and using our hand. It's really important to do that. Breath work, and it doesn't have to be like holotropic breath work, but breath work, even just breathing 10 big breaths a day, like when meditation, breath work, breathing. The breath is spirit. This is what gives us life, and it's the thing that everyone constantly, I take it for granted, more times than I breathe. It's just not, we don't think about it, but when we do, we connect to our body and we calm down so we can hear our intuition. We can hear what we need to hear and feel. And movement, any kind of movement, actually, it doesn't have to be yoga or qigong or tai chi, or those are very specific movement practices, but like running gets your energy going. So many people, that runner's high that they talk about, my husband loves to run, and he'll have all his best ideas when he's running. Like the physical movement, moving our body is so important because it also unblocks energy that gets stuck and caught. And then that caught, trapped energy affects our emotions, it affects our thinking. So any kind of movement helps to get to know our body and get to know ourselves, which ultimately helps us with getting to know our intuition. And, you know, ultimately, this is an exercise in trusting yourself. And we have to remember that very simple thing. Just trust yourself. And that's all this is. That's all intuition is. And this is the book, Productive Intuition. This was my my gift, the gift that I received from the pandemic. So so that's my presentation. And yeah, I would just like to open it up and see what you all think and feel and hear from you.
Thank you, Adapia. That was so good. I'm gonna stop sharing so people can see your beautiful face. So I love that you said that judgment comes from the mind, but the intuition comes from our body. That was such a shift for me. I love that. That was so good. Thank you for all that you shared. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to put them in the chat or come off of mute and ask your question of Adapia. As they're doing that, I just want to thank you for your time, for being here super early with us. And then where can they find your book?
So it's like everywhere, Amazon, Kindle, Barnes and Nobles, like just like all the online places. It's self-published. And so, yeah, that's
and the exact title is
Productive Intuition.
Productive.
Is there an audio book by any chance?
No, I know.
No, it's fine. It's
I
fine.
know. I know it's like on my to-do list, but it's like, I do.
Your voice is so calming. That would be so good to hear you say it. I would just.
Really?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. I do have I would like to interject a little bit. What kind of yoga do you do?
I'm a power yoga. I'm like a crazy handstand yoga person.
Okay.
All the fun things. Well, for me,
presentation.
For me, because I tried Kundalini and like it can be good, but because I have so much energy, if I'm not doing something that, if I don't have to concentrate to the point that I would break my nose, my mind is just like, ooh, it's like over here, it's over there. But if I have to do something really hard, that makes me, it's the only way to make me focus in a way. But I also really like the challenge physically. So I like a really strong practice, but I also really like yin now, where I can just sit in a pose for like 5 minutes and just in the dark. I really started to like that as I think that as I really got to know myself and really integrated more of the feminine side of myself, I didn't have to be so like yoga, like it actually became a true practice. And so I actually really like the yin as well.
Okay.
I love that you asked
that. Well, the reason is because my husband and I, we enjoy the Bikram, the hot yoga. To us, it's just super amazing. And, it gives you such calmness and you sleep wonderful. And I like to run as well. So,
okay.
It's those moments where you're running, like I've done 4 half marathons, and you're thinking, why in the heck did I do this to my body?
Totally.
And then you see, okay, you're at 6 miles, you're almost halfway there. So it was wonderful to hear that you do these things, because I'm able to relate to that.
Oh,
right? And
yeah.
it just at the end is just the peace, and the
Yes.
pain is worth every minute, every mile, every step that you take.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was very nice to hear that. And
Oh, thank you.
intuition, sure, intuition wise, I'll have to share if I ever have any concerns, any issues, any problems. For me, the way I find my answers, it's weird because I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll say, oh my God, that's what I need to do. So my stuff comes, I can't say in a dream, but while I dream, while I sleep, and then I wake up and I have an answer. So it's weird, I know, but
not weird.
I don't know. Other
No,
people might
it's
understand that
so
or not.
common. It's so common. So many times because our brain is so amazing and it's processing constantly. I mean, we have different kinds of like memory. We have like immediate memory up here. We have really deep memory that we can pull from, but that takes a long time. And so it's actually normal for us to go, if we go to bed with a question, we'll either get it in a dream, or like you said, you wake up in the morning. And so many times when it's like, God, what was that thing? And then 5 hours later, 6 hours later, it'll be boop, because we've asked ourselves, this is the thing, like even our body, everything about us is like, we don't ask. And I think Carol was saying this before about asking for help. We like just asking the questions are like the most powerful, most amazing tool. What do I do? What's this? What's that? Not yes or no. We don't get yes or no answers, right? It's kind of like if you use the tarot or anything, like any kind of divination tool, you don't ask those questions, because B, you never get the answers, but you ask open-ended questions. It allows this spirit, all of it to find you the answer. And then I always do a check when it's like, well, how does that feel? Is that what I want? Like, what's a yes and what's a no? I mean, it reminds me, I have I really got to know my values in this process of my awakening. And like, I've gone through periods of being really overwhelmed. And now I make decisions based on two things. Does it enrich me? And that's a feeling thing too. Does it enrich me or does it deplete me? If it enriches me, if it hits my goals, if it feels like enriching, does it, like all of it, that's like, and does it feel like a yes? And then does it deplete me? And if something feels depleting, I say no. And those are really quick, easy. And when I was going through a vocabulary for myself of like, what would be a yes or a no that is also aligned to a goal of my life and a purpose, the depleting is a feeling. Right. And the enriching is also a form of a feeling. And so again, it comes back into the body and into sensation, but I use those. Does it enrich me? Does it deplete me? If I feel depleted by something, I take myself out of it, or I try to, because I might have gone too far with my mind into it. You know, you say yes to everything and then you're like, oh, why did I say yes?
So good.
Yeah.
So good. So I have shared your LinkedIn profile, your email, and your website. So if anybody would like to connect with Adapia, please be sure that you do. She is amazing. And this is just like 1/100th of all of the value that she adds. She mentioned WOW during her talk, and I typed that in. That is her Women of Wealth, which is a mastermind that she has with another friend of ours, Jennifer. And so please connect with Adapia, learn more about how she can help you if you found value in this, which I'm certain that you got something out of this today. And I just want to thank you so much for joining us. Would love for you to stay on if you can.
I'll stay on for a little bit, and then I actually have to go pick up my husband, but I will stay on for a little bit because I know we're doing some yoga, and I like literally rolled out of bed, made a coffee, put on some makeup and came here. So I definitely need to move.
We have a special treat. And Kimberly, I'm so glad that you're here and you're on video. We're going to take a quick break. And for those that want to do yoga, we have a yoga with meditation mother is her thing. It's MUTHA, meditation mother. And so I'm going to share my screen and let me know if you can hear this.
Hi, Texas businesswomen friends. I'm Kim Goyette, your meditation mother, and I am here to help you relax and release any tension in the body after a long day in front of your computer. So let's get started.
Yoga for everybody with Meditation Mother.
So we're going to start seated just to
Can everybody hear? Shake your head. Yes. Okay.
warm up a little bit. You can sit in your desk if you'd like, or on the floor, whatever feels good for your body. We're just going to do a few head circles to relax any tension in the cervical spine. So you can tuck the chin and just start to draw circles with the chin around in one direction. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. Just getting a little bit of movement in the upper spine. And opposite direction. Good. One more time around. And coming back to center, lift the face, and then allow your head to fall to the left. So the left ear towards the left shoulder, relax your right shoulder down, maybe releasing that hand all the way down and flexing the palm. You might feel a nice sensation in the palm all the way up the inside of the arm, and just allow the neck to open up. Good, relax. Tuck the chin, and then move the chin a little bit towards your left shoulder. You might feel a nice opening in the back of the neck. Relax your hand, bring your chin back to center and lift the face. Let's try the other side. So allowing that right ear towards the right shoulder, relax your left hand down, flexing the palm. Open up the left side of the neck, releasing the shoulders away from the ears. Tuck your chin just slightly, and then rotate the chin towards your right shoulder this time. Open up the back of the neck. Good, relax, bring the face and head towards center and just roll the shoulders back. Great. Let's come to hands and knees, or you come all the way to standing from your chair, and we're just gonna make our way all the way up to standing. So we'll do a little bit of breathing, relax the arms, you can shake them out, maybe soften the knees and bounce up and down for a moment. Shaking out any tension in the body, and then relax. Inhale, arms sweep up. Exhale, palms face down. Good, do it again. Inhale, arms up. And exhale. Good, separate the feet from right to left just a little bit. Inhale, arms sweep up. This time we're gonna grab onto the right wrist and open up the right palm. Take a nice inhale, soften the knees and lift from your hips all the way up through your armpits. Exhale over to the side. Let's open up the ribs and the whole right side body. Inhale into the armpit. Exhale back to center and release the hands all the way down. Let's try the other side. Inhale, arms up. Grab onto the left wrist this time, soften the knees, inhale from the hips up to the fingertips, and then exhale over to the right. Deep breath into the left armpit, expand the ribs. Exhale back to center, and release all the way down. Again, roll the shoulders back. Excellent. And we're just gonna take the elbows out to the side, place the hands onto our shoulders, and we'll just twist gently from side to side, releasing any tension in the low back, mid back. Good, just a little bit of twisting, some movement here. Good. Letting go of any stagnant energy. This is a great way to take a break after you've been sitting for a long time. Nice, and then coming back to center, release the hands all the way down. I'm going to turn sideways. You can stay right where you are. Let's inhale, arms sweep up. Separate the feet from right to left, and we're going to fold over our legs. Relax the back of the neck. Good. Grab opposite elbows, let your whole body hang and look in between the legs. You might feel a nice opening in the hamstrings and the back of the legs. Let the crown of the head fall towards the earth. And then feel like your heels are pushing wide to release any tension in the low back. Start to sway your body from right to left. Good. Just letting everything go. Bring your body back to center. Relax your arms down and then just shake your head out. Yes and no. Push into the feet. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Let's come towards the back a little bit. If you're standing on a mat or just on the floor in front of your desk, you can take your right leg and step it forward so that your right heel and your left heel are planted on the ground, but they're separated from right to left a little bit. Good, both toes are pointing forward, and then bend that front knee. Open up the calf a little bit, get some circulation in that area. And we can inhale, arms sweep up. Exhale, release. Good. Inhale up. Exhale, release. One more time, inhale. And exhale. Now we're gonna lift the heel up and back. So you can actually step back, lift the heel up and come up onto your toes and sink down into that back heel. Come forward in that front leg a little bit. Open up the hip flexor. So when we sit, we get really tight in our hip flexor, and it's nice to open that area up. We're gonna do more breath with the arms lifting. Inhale. And exhale. Do it again. Inhale. And exhale. One last time. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Bring the hands to the hips. Step the back foot forward and pause for a moment and just notice any differences from right to left. Good. Let's try the other side. So I'm going to stand back and then move my left leg forward. Both heels stay on the mat. Legs are elongated to start, and we're going to separate the feet again, right to left. Good. Start to bend that front knee. Open up the back calf. Get a nice opening in the back leg. Inhale, arms sweep up. Exhale, release. Good. Two more like this. Inhale. Exhale. Nice. Last time. And exhale. Good. Bring your hands to your hips. Lift your back heel up and maybe step back a few inches. Sink down into that back heel and then come forward in that front knee. You might feel a nice opening in your hip flexor. Let's take an inhale here. And exhale. Good. Again, inhale. And exhale. Last one. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Hands to the hips. Step the back foot forward and pause for just a moment. Notice any differences from right to left. So we're going to come back to seated. You can sit in a desk or on the floor, whatever feels good for your body today. Get into any comfortable seat. And what we're going to do is take that left hand, bring it across to the right knee wherever you are. If you're seated at a desk, you can reach back behind on your chair with that right arm. Look over the back shoulder, relax the shoulders away from the ears, wringing out any tension in the body. Take a nice inhale here. And exhale. Good. Stay here, but look over your front shoulder. Good. And just take one more breath here. And exhale. Good. Slowly unwind. Let's try the other side. Right hand to left knee. Reach back behind. Look over your back shoulder. And take a nice inhale here. And exhale. One more. Looking over the front shoulder this time. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Slowly unwind. Plant your fingertips off to the side. Reach your left hand straight up towards the sky and over to the side. Make your left hip feel very heavy and grounded towards the earth. Inhale into the ribs, expand. Exhale, release down. Let's try the other side. Right hand up and over. Take a nice inhale, expanding the ribs. Exhale, release all the way down. And then just plant your hands in your lap or on your knees. Gently close your eyes in any comfortable seat. And we're just going to do a little bit of breath work to soften the body and the mind. Just inviting the breath in through the nose a little more fully. Lengthening the inhale and the exhale. Noticing the rise and fall of your chest. We're going to count for 6 on an inhale and the same balanced breath on an exhale. So let's begin. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just resume your normal breath. And we'll bring the hands to heart center. Take a moment bowing the mind to the heart and just thank yourself for taking these few moments to reset and relax the body and the mind. Namaste. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me here today. If you like this video and you want to be the first to receive new weekly videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel at Yoga with Meditation Mother. And if you want to learn about yoga retreats happening all around the world and locally in Texas, please check out my website at www.meditationmutha.com. Thanks so much. See you next time.
Very nice.
Okay, that was fun. We haven't done that before. That was so fun. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking this break with us, and Adapia for being here with us. I just want to thank you so much. And now we are going to transition to our final speaker, Kimberly Deshields-Spencer. So to finalize our leadership and business strategy session today for our mini fall conference, Kimberly Deshields-Spencer is a brand and marketing strategist. She has spent over 2 decades working with organizations and business owners and helping them articulate their brand voice and identity. She is the award-winning founder and CEO of 4 companies: UImpact, Sow.Reap.Harvest, Behind Her Brand, and UImpact Publishing Group. She's a best-selling author, a philanthropist, I can't say that word today, podcast host, and a highly sought-after marketing and brand consultant. Kimberly trains and speaks to organizations and business owners who want to understand what it means to reach beyond what they think is possible in their professions by reaching beyond the limits they find within themselves. She cares about people and the results she can help them garner by creating individualized and effective action plans to accomplish their goals. Kimberly's topic for us today is going to be It Matters, Decisions That Impact How You Lead. And welcoming to the screen, my friend, Kimberly Deshields-Spencer. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me here. I've been able to pop in throughout the day, and it's just been really exciting listening from Kara. And I hope I don't mispronounce her name, but Adapia.
Adapia, yes.
Okay, good. But it's been
Yes.
really great listening to everyone. So thank you so much.
Well, we are just so honored to have you. You are also friends with one of our beloved sisters, Blenda Acock. And so she has just talked you up and down the conferences and said that we had to get you on, and we are just so excited to have you. So I'm going to turn over the screen to you, and also I will make you, where are you at on my screen? Let me remove the pin here. I'm going to make you a co-host so you can share your screen if you need to, and the screen is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I just have a few things I wanted to kind of share with you guys today. I don't have a screen share. I would love for some of the pieces that I want to go over to be interactive, and would love to hear some of your thoughts. Like Laura said earlier, I'm a lifelong learner, and I love to learn from people. I soak that up. So often when I do workshops or anything, I love to get, just people's feedback and your experiences. But first, I'll share with you guys a little bit about my story, which is, I always say, is creative how I got into it, because I swear I came out of my mother's womb with a briefcase. I have always been in business. I was that little girl with the newsletter. I had the lemonade stand. I did lawnmower business, making flyers. I just was always in business. And even my high school, it was, Kara mentioned she was from San Antonio, so it was Holmes High School, but they changed to Business Careers High School. So I actually went to a high school that was actually all about business careers. So my whole life has always been in this space. And then when I graduated from college, I went to work for DeVry for like about a year and a half, and I met a lady there who introduced me to the world of professional speaking. And I was incredibly green. She wanted to be a speaker, and I wanted to learn marketing. And so I was in this world with the Les Browns and the Tony Robbins, and I didn't know who any of them were. It was just like, it was such a huge time where motivational speaking was such a huge thing, the Zig Ziglars and everybody. And God blessed me to be around some of the greatest minds. And I was so grateful that I did not know who they were at first, because I didn't get that whole like, oh my God, starstruck. It was a time of soaking it in. And so in that time, I actually started in my own journey of like entrepreneurship, stepping out into my own business at 21. And I started to run a professional speaker management agency. And I was coached by some of the most amazing people, from James Malinchak, also even Les, who just taught me so much about business from a different perspective. So I'm marketing, I'm growing. My business was doing quite well, but I learned very quickly at a very young age that money does not make you happy. I was in my mid-20s, and here I am by this point having 45 speakers. And guys, I was marketing them. We were managing their travel. We were managing their sales. We were showing up. It was, to some people, it can seem exciting, but it was huge burnout for me. We had a very small team. I was still in my 20s, still learning who I am. And we were making all this good income, but I was miserable, depressed, and I was frustrated. And I realized I was creating a business that was crippling people that I was working with, because they didn't know anything about their own marketing. They didn't know anything about my conversations with meeting planners, contracts, nothing. They left everything to me. So I realized that's not what I want to create. And so over the course of time, I was blessed to be able to shift my business focus to UImpact. So I've been doing that now for 26 years, where I show people how to do marketing and show them how to market themselves. But in the course of that, obviously there was a lot of transition and a lot of growth. And as I've been going throughout the different years, which is why I wanted to talk about decisions, was I created, like she mentioned, the different businesses, but the one that I'm really, really passionate about is Behind Her Brand, which kind of birth, if you will, some of the topics that I now speak on. Because as I was building my businesses over the last 20 years, I noticed something. Every time I would work with women, I work primarily with women, and I do other organizations too with males, but women would come into my office, and it was almost as if the beautiful mask that we all see on social media came off. And it was, I'm hearing about their struggles, their fears, their feeling that they had to compare each other, personal issues. I mean, I was seeing so much of their real situations, their real success stories that wasn't always what was put on social media. And what I would watch so often is after we would talk and we would work on business, but I felt like I was a coach and therapist at the same time in some ways. They would leave out the doors and I would see them on social media post the same picture as if life was perfect. Or they'll share things that I knew weren't slightly truth. And I could not reconcile that. Like, why is that a struggle that so many women were feeling, that we had to say one thing and do something different? So over the course of the last few years, it's become our mission, and something that we really are passionate about is sharing real journeys, real stories. Let's really unpack what really goes on behind building a business. I absolutely love learning from women from all stages. I love the seasoned mind. I love the young entrepreneur's mind. I love the corporate leaders. So we created this medium where we ask questions. We ask women, what was your struggles? What was your challenges? What was your ups and downs? And what we have found is that women are feeling more comforted. They're feeling they have a place to talk and to share. And from that birth, the whole It Matters movement for me as well, like the different decisions that we make, the different things that we entertain. So one of the decisions that I've learned, and it took me some time to get to this place, and I do it at a lot of our trainings and events, and it's always such a great discussion piece, is making a list of 20 things of value that you actually bring to the table as a leader. And it's funny because sometimes it stumps women. And I always challenge them not to write that you give great customer service, because we should, that you're a great communicator. Well, not everyone's a great communicator, but expand on that a little bit, not that, oh, I like people. Well, what is it that you really do when you say you like people? Like, what within that? And I would always challenge people to make a list of 20 things of value. 20 things that you are really strong in, because I found that even as a leader myself, I'm not good in everything, obviously. And I really wanted to understand where my real worth came from, what I really saw myself as valuable in. And I wanted to make sure that I was communicating that with other people. And the reason why this was such a really important exercise is I find, and maybe some of you guys, I would love to hear your experiences, was that oftentimes what we think we're communicating isn't being translated to other people. Oftentimes, if you look at what you're presenting, even if you're building your career or you're building your business, people may not be valuing you in the ways that you desire. And sometimes it's because of what we're not articulating. And so whenever we would do this exercise, we found that women got stumped even getting to the first 10 until they got to the 10. And then they were able to slowly say, okay, now I'm starting to understand more of what I bring to the table. And when they started to see that, it was a really good eye-opening experience, because now you get a chance to see, I really do this. I help teams be productive in the following different ways. I am very talented in these following different categories. And to me, when you really understand that, and when you really own that, you show up more confidently. You show, in my opinion, much more clearer about who you are as a leader. And it'll also show up in the results that you're getting for your team members, or if you're in business, in your business, how you're showing up when you're really understanding what value you bring to the table. So I would love to ask, just for a brief moment, your experiences with that. How effective has it been whenever you had to communicate your value to your audience? Like, what was some of the results that you've gotten from that?
I'll start while everybody else is coming off mute. So I think one of the biggest things that I've struggled with is being able to communicate that with, because I would equate that with being egotistical. So having that mindset shift of adding value and seeing myself as valuable or worthy, or having something worth sharing, wasn't egotistical. It was actually just an acknowledgement of how I saw myself, my own love for me. And so that's been an evolution, but being around other women that spoke that to me helped me do that. And so this group has been phenomenal for that. They speak life, they speak your accolades. So being able to share that in safe spaces was a great place to practice.
I love that.
Before I had to do it on stage. Right.
I love that you said that from the ego standpoint, because that was one of the things when we host our events, was a lot of women kind of felt like, am I bragging on myself? And then a lot of times we don't always celebrate our own wins or our own growth. Like, absolutely. I know that I may not be the strongest in one particular category, and that's okay. But I had to really start honestly, just looking at where my worth came from, because I noticed for a number of different reasons, and I'm not one to play a lot of the political cards per se, but there's a lot of things that when I was going to different places and events, I kept finding people weren't honoring my worth. And so, and I can always say it's because of this or that or what have you, but I boiled it down to, I need to communicate it. I need to be confident in it. And if I lead with my worth and I lead it through my actions, then it'll quiet everything else across the board. And it started to do that for me over the years. It's to start, my business has started to grow, and we started to do a lot of things when I realized it's not from that place. I'm glad you mentioned that, Karen. It was something that I had to be comfortable saying, no, I really am good in this space. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, so I will go. Oh, that's all. So one other thing that I had to learn, one of the biggest decisions, especially over the last few years, I've learned as a leader, was paying attention to my environment. And I don't mean necessarily my personal environment. It was the environment that was happening around us. You know, working with the different groups that we did, you know, I heard a lot of people say they want to ignore the news or ignore social media, ignore all these different pockets. But what I found was when you're working with different people, whether it's in corporate America or business, really being in tune to the environment still affects the people that you're leading. It affects the people that you are interacting with every single day. And I realized that I couldn't tune out every single thing. And I had to learn to kind of choose how that was. Obviously, I didn't want to sit in front of a news all day long because the news can be very depressing. But I learned that the more that I really understood the environments of the people that I meant to serve, I was able to show up more effectively for them. I was able to have conversations and show empathy and understanding. And I may not always be able to relate to every single thing that they've experienced, but what I was able to do, I was able to have a conversation with them. And so we found that there was a commonality when I was able to relate. And, oh, sorry, something is beeped on the screen. But I was able to interact with them in a more effective way. So it was something that I found to be a very impactful position to be in when you really look at that. And then on the other side of that also is your personal environment. I look at, how am I growing? Who am I growing around? What am I listening to? What is being poured into me? And I know that we often hear that, but I also found that so many times we don't take the time to really look at that for ourselves. You know, like Karen just mentioned, being around the Texas Business Women's group has been really helpful for her. But when you look at the groups that you're around with day to day, that's the constant question I would always ask people. Is it helping you? Is it growing you? Is it challenging you? Is it a place where you're finding that you're able to be effective and that you're able to offer your gifts and your talents to them? And then vice versa. Like, are you open to receiving it? So I think environments really count, and it really makes a big difference. Yeah. So another thing that I look at for decisions, and this is something I'm really, really big on, is something that I learned, gosh, I feel like old school sometimes. I'm only in my mid 40s, but I love old school ways of doing business sometimes. But
They're good ways. They're good ways. Don't apologize or don't feel bad about that. We all appreciate that.
I'm still a note card writing kind of person. I mean, I'm so known for that. But I know that we're very technology driven, but one of the biggest decisions our team has always made before pandemic, and now we're getting back into it, is we have coffee weeks. And this is where we intentionally meet with people face to face. And sometimes I may be in a coffee shop for a few hours. I don't drink coffee the whole time, but I love to talk to people intentionally and connect with people intentionally. It's a decision that I've always made that has helped me grow the networks that I have. I never want it to be shallow, if you will, or not, where I really understand someone, because if I'm going to refer you, if I'm going to help you, I want to understand who you are. And so when we do these coffee meetings, we also have every quarter what we call our coffee connections. And so when we invite different women to the events, we give them connect cards. And on the connect cards, it gives them names of people who are going to be coming that day that would be great connections for them to connect with. And we do that based off of our coffee connections. And it's something that I've been doing now for almost a decade. And it has been such a really, really great experience, because it allows me to be intentional. It allows me to really understand people's needs. It allows me to connect different people. And I find as leaders, the more that we really understand the people that we're meant to be connected to and understand who they are, we can help them in a different way when we are more intentional about how we're linking them to people. Like when Karen reached out to me, Belinda and them had already reached out to me as well. And so because I knew Belinda, it was like an automatic yes, whatever she asked me to be a part of, I'm like, sure, not a problem, because I know her so well. And she and I connect and we pray together and all kind of things. But then I also had Amanda. Amanda reached out to me too, and she's part of your network as well. So those were connections that were very intentional, and I spent time with them. And so not that everyone has the time to do that, so I'm not saying everyone should, but what I am suggesting is that making an intentional effort to connect, especially if you meet someone at a networking event. You know, I don't know about you, but I used to walk away with stacks of cards, and I'm really big about follow-up, and I may get a response, sometimes may not. And my thing is, I really connect with people. I don't go looking for a stack. I only go look for 1 or 2 connections and people that I can say, hey, let's go grab coffee or tea. And so I can really understand your business and understand how I can be supportive and not come from a standpoint of do for me. It's more from a serving standpoint. How can I support you? Because I have been blessed to be around some amazing women from all over. And if I can support you or connect you, I want to do that. And that was a decision that I can tell you guys, so many times people told me it was a waste of time. They told me that it takes up too much time, that it'll never build my business, it'll never build my network. And I'm one of those kind of people, I like the previous speaker mentioned about your intuition. I knew it was right for me. And so it's a little bit, it may be a different kind of marketing, but it worked for me. And I've learned to trust my own intuition on the things that I knew were best for me. I'm not big on wanting to connect on technology. I'm just not. Yeah, I do have all my platforms like everyone does, but I do like to take it offline so I can really look at you and get to know you. So that's a really big thing for me. So I would love to hear some ways that you guys connect intentionally that has helped you build your respective careers.
We'll give everybody a second to respond. And while they are, I found LinkedIn has been really great. I love Facebook, but I'm actually loving the connections on LinkedIn where you can actually have those conversations that seem to be a little deeper.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we have our TBW Tuesdays, which has been a great way for us to connect, to serve, to show up and have some really deep conversations about things that matter, because we have a little bit of networking before, and then we jump right into the content, and we have great speakers. So that has been a great one during the pandemic, especially. Laura, was great to keep that going so that we could stay in front of each other and just stay connected.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Laura?
Yes, well, I was going to piggyback on that and say, you know, even from the state as a whole, all those things that Karen just mentioned, but also for our local organization in San Angelo, we have a networking luncheon. And that is very popular, that we can come together, and Blenda is a part of our San Angelo group, as is Amanda. And she always gives those nuggets of inspiration. And that is something that a key phrase, a key word that Belinda is very intentional. Yeah. She is intentional about that. And I'll also say Wilma from our local organization as well. She is a ball of fire, and I just love her. She is very big on follow-up and wanting to make those intentional connections and have coffee dates. So a lot of our networking or connections, because the best compliment is a referral, right? So a lot of that has come from our networking luncheon. And the best thing is who you know.
Yes.
So if we can, you know, and a lot of ladies come in and out of the networking luncheon. So there are different people of all walks of life. I'm at a credit union. We have other bankers. So we have a lot of financial information, our ladies. We have a lot of realtors. But again, the best compliment is a referral. So I may refer to one realtor one time and another one the next. So you just go down your list, but making those intentional connections.
I'd like to